huge. You want to take a chance on, getting some catering done. That's all good. Journey Church is on the move, and MCC getting a new parking lot, getting some buses before and after school care. Exciting things with Christian education. Pretty much exciting anything that Christ is doing for the kingdom. That's where we're at, and I think that's one of the things I love about the Duncan world is that it's a platform to interact with people and serve them, right? We love supporting missionaries through the Duncan out there. So anyways, check it out. But if you have your own business and you got a platform, man, I'm telling you, and that's one of the things I'm going to briefly share with you today about how to be a believer, somebody who confesses and believes that, Christ is the center of their life and that we live for them or live for Jesus, but also at the same time, we have a business. And, one of the biggest pitfalls that I find, or at least patterns and statistics that I look at, is when people find success according to the world through business, which there's nothing wrong with that if it comes to like financial prosperity and things like that. The problem is that when we start holding on to all those resources, that 100% of it comes from the Lord, we don't end up turning around and continuing to bless other people, because that's ultimately what God has done. He says, hey, listen, I've tested you, I've refined you, I've given you a platform to continue to build the kingdom, which is ultimately your sole purpose. But the problem is that you tasted and seen a little bit too much of the world. You forgot where your priorities lie. You've now justified it in your mind to allocate these resources for your own human things while kind of like giving credit to the kingdom, but really it's going towards other things. And then we wonder sometimes why the kingdom or why our businesses halt, and not necessarily because, we're breaking that ceiling of next level of success, but primarily because we've simply said, I'm going to hold on to this, right? I'm not going to give this much anymore. I'm not going to be charitable. I'm not going to be generous. I've earned this. And the moment that we start saying things like, I've done this and I've earned this and I've built this, it reminds me of Nebuchadnezzar when he was on the top of his roof and the Lord had come to him and said, hey, listen, this is all mine. And you got to remember, these are the I believe it was called like the seven wonders of the world, right? One of them was Nebuchadnezzar, right? The Hanging Gardens, that was his. And he was just like, look what I built, right? And after the Lord had already came to him a year earlier and said, don't ever say nonsense like that again. Otherwise, like, I'll take this all from you. He said it. And it says in the word in the Old Testament that the moment that those words like escaped from his lips, he became thinking and acting like a wild beast, and they pushed him out. And actually, we don't really have time for that, but that's a really interesting story, because though the Bible records it, but some skeptics would say, well, there's no record of that in history. But there is a record that the king of Babylon made no executive orders for 7 years during that time. Just saying. Business all the way back to the Old Testament is the same today. But today, what I want to do is I want to just focus for a couple of moments on faith, being a believer in Jesus, and also having a secular business that is for profit. And there's nothing wrong with that. I get that a lot. Like, is it wrong to make money? No, not at all. Like, money is currency, and it's what you call amoral. And I want to like push people wrong on the gun issue here, but guns are amoral. A pencil is amoral, right? A wall is amoral. Like, what you do with it are the outcomes, right? So it comes down to being a person, and what you do with your business, whether it's for the glory of the God or glory of the Lord or glory of God or glory for yourself, it's amoral, right? It's just currency. It's just money. And it says the root of all things is the love of money. It's the love, right? It's the love. And actually, when that translates into the original text, it's not the word money, it's actually the word things, right? So it can be anything. Anyways, what I'm getting at is that if you don't have this one thing that I want to briefly talk about, you will feel the blessing of the Lord, but then it'll shoot south in the wrong direction, and it will end up hurting your business, right? And the word today is character, right? So a lot of people struggle to have character, and people may say, well, I have character. And then the question is do you know what character is? And this is something I wish maybe somebody would have kind of like taught me growing up with like faith and business coming together. Like, I got the business side and I got the faith side, but I never saw the synergy. And you may say, well, if you know one, you know the other. How do you not know? You know what? It's just always nice to have a mentor and a coach. So let me just talk a little bit about this for a second. First of all, your character in the Lord, in your character, your name will sustain your business and protect you from future pitfalls, because there are going to be moments where your business is going to suffer. It's going to be stressful. You're going to lose sleep, and you're going to begin to think about, what can I do? And there's going to be illegal ways. There's going to be ways that will violate your character. There's going to be things that are going to betray people. There's going to be things that are going to want to make you sin, because you can get away with it and you will get out of it. But at the end of the day, if you sacrifice your character, what do you have left? I think that's incredibly important to remember. So the first thing I want to do is John 7:7 says this: the world cannot hate you, right? The world doesn't care. right? You're just another person in this world. But it hates me, being Jesus, because I testify about it, that it works, that the works that are being done on earth and in this world are evil. What we're suggesting in this podcast and through this verse is that the world doesn't care what direction you make. It just wants what the world wants. And we know that Satan rules the world and that there's sin in the world. So the world wants sinful actions, wants sinful business deals, wants transactions, because it says you are successful based on your fame, your finances, and who you're having, inappropriate relationships with outside, or just sex in general, right? Those are the three things that a person, according to the world standards, and it's not that it cares about us, but it just wants us to play along. So that's what makes it challenging being a faith, because we have character, which is derived from the Bible, but we're in a secular world. We're in a sinful world trying to do a business. That's kind of like oil and water if you think about it a little bit. But can it happen and can it work? The answer is yes, to a certain degree. Just know that the world doesn't hate you and hate your business. It just hates for what it stands for, and that the character that you have. But we can have character, we can love the Lord, and we can have a successful business in a sinful world. That's what I want to talk about just for a couple of moments. So, as we're kind of talking about character, let's kind of define that for a second, because if you don't have this and you're in a business, and even if you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, you still have to have character. And you may say, can I have character and not be a believer? It'd be best if you're a believer, because it's going to share with you exactly what biblical character is. But character is defined as strength of morale or moral fiber, right? So moral fiber is the ability or the strength to do what you believe to be right when making decisions in difficult situations. For a believer, that's going to be according to the Bible. The problem is that when we don't want to do what the Bible says because it's going to be too hard, because we're afraid of the outcome, that it may not be in our favor, instead of trusting the Lord's plan or trusting the fact that maybe we made a bad decision before, and now we're going to face the consequences, we bend and break, or we get molded to the world's view, and then we justify by saying, well, if the Lord didn't want to put this in my situation, then he wouldn't allow me to be here. And really, it just might have been a bad decision that you make. And this is where your character begins to come into question a little bit. Do you have any, and are you willing to be strong in it? Which ultimately is, are you willing to be strong in your faith? And we know that in the New Testament that God says that only faith in him can please him, right? So by gaining character and developing and maturing your character in the Lord, you're ultimately serving the kingdom, building the kingdom, and building your faith, which ultimately pleases God. So it's not just am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? It's like, do I represent the kingdom? Do I represent my Lord and Savior? And so we as believers, and here's a couple things I want to share with you. We as believers base our moral fiber on biblical standards. So if it's not in the Bible and you're making decisions outside of it, those will betray you and appeal to your human emotions, and that is going to be a problem. Unbelievers base their moral fiber on what they know, which, could be anything, which could be wrong, I suppose. What they think, which means they're ruled by their emotions, or what they've experienced before, which could have been bad, but they could have thought was good because they got away with it, or what they can get away with, exactly, right? So, I can get away with this. Nobody's going to know. It's going to project my business. I assure you, it's like math. If you don't figure out how to do the formula now and you go do more math later, that is going to come back and you're not going to know what the right answer is. And you think you are, and you're going to make another bad decision. And those are the moments where really you can start jeopardizing your finances, your business, whether it be an S Corp, LLC. It could be all kinds. It could be legal. It could put you in jail. You have to have character when you're in business. And so A.W. Tozer, a phenomenal individual who did a ton of writing, wrote this, described character as the excellence of moral beings, right? As the excellence of gold is its purity, and the excellence of art is its beauty, the excellence of man is his character. Right. So if you're trying to build a house without materials, but just on like hopes and dreams, unicorns and Skittles, and you're just trying to like put all these other materials, it's not going to make it. No matter how good it looks, when the hard times come, it's going to fall over, right? So if you don't have character and you're trying to do a business and you're just trying to get away and not do things the right way, eventually that foundation, which is lacking, is not going to be there. So a person's character is noted by these three things. First of all, honesty, ethics, and charity. And people, and that's kind of almost where I started with the beginning of this material, is the charity part, right? Like we forget it. The more successful we get, sometimes the less charitable we become, and we forget where we've come and where we've been. And I think everybody who has a business at one point or another, somebody reached out when they didn't need you or the opportunity or your advice or your excellence or anything. They didn't need you, but they gave it to you because they want to see you succeed, right? That's charitable right there. And we have to make sure that we're turning around doing the same thing, even if it's like promoting a nonprofit or like giving to a church or just seeing other people grow and develop. It can't be all about you. It can't all be about your business. There's millions of businesses out there that are also trying to do the same thing. But let me break this down real fast. First of all, the three things is honesty, ethics, and charity. Those are the things that are going to build your business, because ultimately that's kind of being defined as character. One, honesty. We would think that we know what that is, but it's speaking the truth in love and humility, even when we think the listener might reject us, right? So if you love somebody, you're going to be honest with them, no matter how much it hurts. And it's always best to go in with a humble heart, not a false sense of humility, right? It's not like, if you are deemed successful and things are really well and somebody says, oh, wow, like great business, like things are going well. And you're like, oh, well, I'm not really sure. I'm sure we got some problems. That's a false sense of humility. You just need to zip it. Just say thank you. Just be like, it's going really well. The Lord's been very favorable. I want to make sure that whatever opportunities we've gotten, we want to give to somebody else, right? Just be humble and just, zip it kind of thing. But be honest by the same token, right? The other thing is this: ethics, the principles derived from a Christian faith by which we act, right? You do not want to violate your ethics for a small, what you think is a false sense of win, right? False sense of win. You might get away with it now, but it's going to catch up with you later. If you violate your ethics, if you violate your honesty, your business is going to be corrupted from the inside out, and those are the businesses that fail. Let me read you a verse real fast. It's kind of long, but I believe there's a lot of value in this. It's from Colossians 3:1-6. And it says this: since then you have been raised with Christ, right? So this is speaking to the character of those that are calling themselves believers, right? Set your hearts, which is your will, your desires, your intentions, your dreams, your hopes. And that's what it means by the word heart. Set it on things above, meaning that the things that God is of, and the things he is spending his time on, and he doesn't have time, but what he's spending his time on, what he's thinking about, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God, meaning simply that he is just as equal to God, as why it's on the right side. Set your minds on things above. Boom, there it is, right? Not on earthly things. So if you're sitting in bed at night and you're thinking like, oh, wow, like how much money do I want to make this year? How fit do I want to get? Like those are great things to do. But if that's what consumes your mind on what's the driving force to building your business, you might accomplish that and you're going to feel empty, because you're going to be like, dude, I did it and I don't really have anything to show for it other than just like a lot of business, and I'll give this to the kids. But like, what did they learn from that? They just learned that mom and dad just learned how to make more money, right? And that doesn't build the kingdom, and that's not going to bring them joy. It might bring them happiness, but it's not going to bring them joy, and joy is lasting. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory, right? So this is just thinking about like, you can think about your business, but without character and knowing what's really important, none of this is ever going to matter. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, your sexual immorality, your impurity, your lust, your evil desires, your greed, which is idolatry. Ooh, that's interesting. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming. Hey, listen, all this is saying is that if you prioritize your entire business outside of character, outside the things of God, outside of your faith, and you try to do this on your own, it more than likely you're going to bend and break, and you're going to give into something that's immoral, and it's going to sacrifice your character. And if it sacrifices your character, it sacrifices your name in the community if people can trust you. So if you're like, hey, I'm not buying into the faith thing, I want to know more about the business thing. Well, I'm saying that the faith thing is the foundation to a successful business. Ryan, are you saying you have to be successful in the Lord to be successful in business? Because I know a lot of people that do not know the Lord to have successful businesses. Exactly. Who do you think is blessing that? If the Lord's not blessing it to build the kingdom, then the blessings are coming from somewhere else. Ryan, can you really say that that is supernatural? Absolutely. That is literally all Paul talks about, is that this world is a supernatural, that we're not fighting against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and spiritualness of it all. You bet. You can be blessed outside. I said the word blessed. You can be blessed by something outside that's going to project you here on earth that might just very well send people straight to the gates of hell. So it's so much more than just making a buck. It's about what you stand for and the character that you're doing it and doing it right. Even if people who are unbelievers don't get it, it doesn't sacrifice your character now, right? Woo, okay. Let me share this with you. The last thing was charity. It was honesty, ethics, and charity. Let me give you a little bit of charity, because these are the things that are going to make up your character. Charity ultimately is love. According to the Bible, charity translates into love. King James Version in 1 Corinthians 13 translates the word agape, unconditional love, to charity, right? So you cannot love Jesus and not love people. I get that all the time. I love Jesus, but I treat this person like garbage. And that's not how that works, right? Same thing with your business. If you're building your business and the Lord's blessing you and giving you prosperity to a certain degree, or just blessing you or showing you favor, man, you need to make sure you turn around and bless other people, right? That is the platform that God has given you. If you hold that back, just remember, he is saying, okay, you are not ready to go to the next level of success. So let's just stay right here. And if he needs to break you and bring you down a little bit so that you'll understand to go back to the Lord instead of like moving on thinking that it was you, because it wasn't you. I should have started with that. It was not you that built your business. I'm not saying that you didn't contribute to it, but without the favor of the Lord, you're dead in the water, right? The second version of charity is giving. That's what it translates to in Acts 9:36. You know, it's the foundation of running a business is from the favor of the Lord. It's giving. This translates on the business side. This is where I see really healthy businesses make it, and where businesses don't make it seems to be this. If you put profit margins first as number one, you're going to lose, because that's all you're going to think about, and you're going to start thinking about as people as expendable, and they're real human beings with real feelings, with real finances and real bills, right? But if you put people first and then you give them a purpose, I promise you, your profit margins will take care of themselves. Another good thing is this, as it's talking about character, Proverbs 22:1, a good name is more desirable than great riches, right? Your name in the community is going to be more desirable because people will want to work with you knowing that they could trust you based on your character than possibly just the product. I know tons of people who have a mediocre product that is inferior to somebody else's, but I know that I can trust that person from not messing me over. I know what I'm going to get, and I'm going to choose that higher product or that lower quality product over the next guy, because that person, and this is what I want to talk about, that person may have a tendency to mess people over or not be true to their word. Dare I say other words that would give you the impression that they're just going to mess you over, right? They're not going to be honest, right? There's no honesty, there's no humility, there's no ethics, there's no charitable. They're just out there for. I'm not partnering with people like that. That is, I don't have enough years on this earth to waste working with people that don't care about other people, right? I'm not saying that I haven't worked with people that are, I mean, I work with unbelievers all the time, but I will never sacrifice my character or my integrity or my character to make a buck. And so that's important. So a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is be better than silver or gold. This is saying that how people view your character, because of what it truly is more important than the big house and the big cars and, launching this business and that side adventure, right? If they can't trust you, nobody's coming anyways, right? And that song and dance will run out eventually after you break a couple of really big deals or big things that I'm going to talk to you about like right now. And so if you're debating on getting into a business deal or getting into bed with somebody who is going to be like a partner and there's this whole thing, here's a couple things. Or maybe you are a business and you're deciding, should I do business with somebody else? These are three things that you have to ask yourself before signing any deals, and how to pray and the due diligence of research. The first thing is this: what kind of history does that person or that business have? Go do your research. Start with Google. Ask around. If you get people that are just like, hey, listen, Ryan he's great. Like, you got to work with him. You need to go find somebody that says, you know what, Ryan, I don't know if he's changed in the last 10 years, but there's been a couple moments where I'm just like, ooh, he's got some growing and maturing to do, right? Like, you got to find the good. It's just like when you go to a restaurant. Don't go to the restaurant and just look at all the good reviews. They got people that get it paid. You got to go find those bad reviews, those ones that are just like awful, where you're just like, dude, did you see that? Like, that's like, if that's true, like, that's concerning. You got to do your due diligence. Go find the history, their credit score. Have they ever declared bankruptcy? Do they have liens? Do they have debt? Do they have an infrastructure? Do they have policies? Do they have procedures? Is their turnover rate super high? If their turnover rate is super high, then that business is not valuing people. If they're not valuing people, they're probably not going to value you. They just want whatever they want up front. They're going to treat you like they're turning over tables, which is fine. If your business is expediting a process to deliver a product within a speed of service kind of thing, okay, as long as everybody knows what you're getting into. But if you got somebody who's just like, hey, I've been bankrupt 4 times, I've got liens on everything, I'm up to my eyeballs in debt, I have no infrastructure, but they promise you the world, they have great sales. It's like parents always say, if it's too good to be true, probably is. The second thing you got to look for is like, what kind of statistics do they have, right? Like ask around, like, do they complete 100% of the job? Do they complete 50% of the job? Do they get up to 80% of the job and then leave you for somebody else, right? Sorry, general contractors have a bad reputation of that. They get 80%, 70% of the project. They start looking for the next thing, which is fine. You always want to have like incoming work, but you don't want to be calling that person 3, 6, 9 months later saying like, hey, you got to come back and finish the project. Like, what kind of statistics do they have? Do they come back and ask for more money at the end after the agreed, so go find some history, go find some statistics about them. Statistics and data and reports, unless they're falsified, I know that's kind of weird to say, they don't lie. Like, numbers never lie. Like, if you're a business person and you're just like, can I do this business deal? You need to put everything on paper after prayer and addressing the Holy Spirit and asking for discernment. And you need to look at it with numbers. Numbers will tell you exactly, can you do this deal? And what the risk assessment is, and if you should not do this deal. No matter how bad you want it, if it says that you're going to operate in the negative for the next 7 to 9 years because your bank loan is too much than your profit margins, or there are no profit margins, even if you want to be first to the race, but you can't do it, don't do it. And here's the best piece of advice I've gotten in business in a long time, because I have this, what do they call it? It's called like fear of missing out, like FOMO, right? That's something that I don't even think this generation uses that terminology anymore. It was the generation before, but we see an opportunity, it jumps at us, and they say, like, if you're going to be rich, you either have to like inherit it, or you have to develop something that's never been done, or you have to be first to it. Those are the 3 ways of being filthy rich. But at the same time, though, if that opportunity presents itself and you're not ready for it, I'm not saying about not taking risks and assessing it, right? There's always going to be opportunity. That's one of the best sound advices I've been ever given. There's always going to be opportunity. So feel free to say no. Saying no is everything, right? Okay. And then the last thing is just, what kind of patterns has this person or this business or this client established, right? How low are their Google reviews, right? It's a little bit like the history, but like, have they established any patterns? And these are also the 3 things that if you hear a rumor, or if you hear somebody say something about somebody else, before just saying like, oh, that must be honest, or, oh, they're lying. No. Like, if somebody says something negative about somebody else, be like, okay, cool. What's their history? Do they have patterns? Do they have statistics to support all these things that you're saying? Because if the job is, if the answer is no, then you have a lie on your hands, and you got to be able to decipher and discern between what's a lie and what's truth. So do they have, low Google reviews? Do they show up late to the job? When things get tough, do they avoid your phone calls? Do they make excuses, portraying them to be reasons? Do they pay their invoices? Are they getting invoices and trying to negotiate the overall, invoice down? Do they stick with the partnership for over a year? I mean, these are things you need to do your due diligence before ever like getting to do a business deal with somebody else, and a client for that matter. Like, before you take on a new client, even if it's like $35 or $50 a month, if you're just like, well, risk assessment says this is the cost of doing business, I don't care if they pull out, we'll do this. It's no big deal. Okay, great. It's called breakage, right? You assessed it, you know that you could lose in this, and you're okay with it, and that's the point of doing business. No problem. There's a whole department for that. But if you're relying on that $50 and that's a deal breaker for you, which $1 is a deal breaker in the beginning of any business, right? And you don't think you can afford to do without it, and you didn't do your homework on them, that is on you. Otherwise, say like, you know what? That's probably not, the answer is not no, but the answer is not right now, right? That's a great way to answer people sometimes without turning them off and making them upset. So anyways, as we kind of begin to wrap this up, if you're starting a business, which we can talk about this on the next podcast, if you're starting a business, here are a few questions that I want you to be thinking about. It's 8. I'm going to go through them really quickly. Go back to the podcast and, slow it down if you want to a little bit. Do I know what I'm talking about? Well, Ryan, I'm really passionate. Like, I've had a lot of people tell me that my sandwiches are great, and I'm a great sandwich maker, and I can do this out of my house, and I can do to a brick and mortar. There is Subway, there is Jimmy John's. I don't know if you're going to be able to compete with that. You need to think about, just because you're passionate about it and you're uneducated about the business world, probably means you should not run out and grab an LLC real fast and start putting people on payroll and paying taxes. There's a whole world out there, but there are people out there that can help you. You should think about that, okay? Do I have mentors that will guide me and coach me? Do not go start a business on your own without either working in the business for a while or grabbing somebody that has an understanding what the business is, because they're going to be like, hey, listen, and they may call you a kid and you may be 70 years old. I started here, on paper this looked good, but these are the kind of people that are going to burn you and smoke you out. You got to be ready for this. Do I have a line of credit or investors? Do I really want to be my own boss? If you decide you want to be your own boss, here's a couple things. You do not have the option of not answering your phone. You are not taking days off. And no, you are not going to have a balanced, healthy lifestyle. You're going to have to trade it. And if you're willing to do it, then you might be cut out for it. I'm not going to trade my time with your kids. You might have to. You may have to put the kids down and work for the next 6 hours and run on 2 hours of sleep. And you may have to repeat that for 2 years. But too often people are like, oh, hey, you can have a balanced life and start a business. That's a lie. That's a lie. No, you can't. Do you have a contingency plan? Do you have liquid capital to invest after you get the doors open? Do you put your house up for collateral? No. That's where your kids sleep. That's where your wife sleeps. Do not put the house up for collateral. I do not care what the bank says. The bank is the biggest money maker in our entire country. The bank can be your friend, but remember, they're going to get what's theirs first, okay? All right. I do love the bank, right? We're all thankful for the bank, but just be aware. And do you have other backing outside of the bank? If you're going to go take a loan for a small business, you're not taking 100% out. Do not do that. You can do 60, you can do 70, but you need at least 30% of outside investors to kind of carry you when the waters get deep. And I assure you, the weather is going to storm. So anyways, we will talk more about how to start a business, things to be asking for on the next one. But until then, thank you so much for your time. Glad you stopped in. As always, remember that the Messenger Studios is the only place to get your information. It is the best. Papers are everywhere. Anywhere you look, be sure to get caught up. Hey, appreciate you. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.